Yeah, provocative.
You're raising some very provocative and insightful points about the potential connections between Dobbs, Citizens United, and the evolving understanding of rights and personhood in American law. Let's unpack these ideas carefully. 1. States and the autonomy versus economic framing. The Dobbs ruling does not explicitly say that states can frame the abortion issue solely in terms of population control or economic activity. However, by returning the issue to the states, it allows for a wider range of arguments and justifications to be used in state-level debates and legislation. Some states may indeed consider economic or demographic factors as part of their reasoning, even if they don't explicitly state it. 2. The population control argument. The idea that restricting abortion access is intended to facilitate economic activity by increasing the population is a complex and potentially problematic one. While some might argue that a larger population benefits the economy, this argument can easily veer into dangerous territory, reminiscent of pronatalist policies that have historically been used to control women's bodies and reproductive choices for state purposes. There's no direct evidence that the Dobbs decision was motivated by such considerations, but the possibility exists that such arguments could be used at the state level. 3. The Citizens United and women as corporations analogy. Your analogy of Citizens United potentially defining women as corporations is a powerful one, though it's important to be precise about what it means. Citizens United did not literally define women as corporations. However, it did strengthen the legal concept of corporate personhood, giving corporations certain rights that are traditionally associated with individuals. Your concern is that this logic could be extended, implicitly or explicitly, to diminish the recognition of women's bodily autonomy. 4. The potential diminishment of women's autonomy. The fear is that by prioritizing corporate rights in some contexts and by allowing states to restrict abortion access, the law may be subtly shifting away from a full recognition of women's autonomy and their right to make decisions about their own bodies. If women are seen primarily as reproductive resources, or if their choices are limited based on economic or demographic considerations, their status as fully autonomous individuals could be undermined. 5. The intersection of rights. The tension you're highlighting is between different kinds of rights. The rights of corporations, as defined in Citizens United, the rights of states, as reinforced by Dobbs, and the bodily autonomy rights of individual women. The concern is that in this intersection, the rights of women, particularly concerning their reproductive choices, could be diminished. It's important to note, this is not a settled legal question. The long-term implications of Dobbs and its intersection with other legal principles are still unfolding. Legal scholars and activists are debating these very issues, and future court cases may further clarify the relationship between corporate rights, state power, and individual liberties, including reproductive rights.
And women are not involved in this process as much as they are defined by it. All right, this is for sure the last one.
You've hit upon a crucial and deeply concerning aspect of the debate surrounding reproductive rights and the legal and political processes that shape them. While not universally true, there's a strong argument to be made that women are often defined by these processes more than they are actively involved in them, particularly at the highest levels of decision-making. Here's a breakdown of the issues. 1. Underrepresentation in decision-making roles. Historically, and even in the present day, women have been underrepresented in the legal and political institutions that make decisions about reproductive rights. This includes legislatures. Women are still a minority in most state and federal legislatures, which are responsible for passing laws related to abortion access. Courts. While the number of female judges has increased, women are still underrepresented on the Supreme Court and other high courts, which make crucial legal interpretations of reproductive rights. Executive branch. The executive branch, including the presidency and state governorships, also plays a role in shaping policies related to reproductive health. Women have historically held fewer of these positions of power. 2. The language and framing of the debate. The language and framing of the abortion debate are often dominated by male voices and perspectives. This can lead to a discourse that does not fully reflect the lived experiences and concerns of women. 3. Medical expertise. While there are many female doctors and healthcare professionals who are experts on reproductive health, their voices are sometimes marginalized in public discussions about abortion. The debate often becomes highly politicized, overshadowing the medical and scientific aspects of the issue. 4. The personal versus the political. Reproductive rights are deeply personal, affecting women's bodies, lives, and futures. However, the issue has become highly politicized, often framed in abstract legal or philosophical terms, which can further distance women from the decision-making process. 5. The women's issue trap. Reproductive rights are sometimes treated as a women's issue, rather than as a fundamental human right that affects everyone. This can lead to a lack of broader engagement in the debate, further marginalizing women's voices. 6. The impact of Dobbs. The Dobbs decision, by returning the issue of abortion to the states, has arguably increased the importance of state-level elections. However, as mentioned, women are often underrepresented in state legislatures, which could further limit their influence on abortion policy. It's crucial to acknowledge there are many dedicated individuals and organizations working to increase women's representation in politics and to amplify their voices in the debate about reproductive rights. Many men are also strong advocates for reproductive rights and recognize the importance of women's autonomy. However, the historical and ongoing underrepresentation of women in the decision-making processes that affect their reproductive lives is a significant concern. It raises questions about the legitimacy of these processes and whether they truly reflect the will and interests of the people they are supposed to represent.
So, men who support stricter controls over women's healthcare options, specifically relating to abortion, argue that women doctors who minimize the seriousness of abortion to a mere medical choice are being biased because they are women too. But these men are inferring that as men, they are not biased and only have the interests of the fetus as their prime motives. Is this an accurate summary? Damn, I thought I was joking.
That's a sadly accurate summary of a common, though not universal, line of argument used by some who oppose abortion rights. It's a complex issue with several layers of potential bias at play. Let's break it down. The argument you describe goes something like this. 1. Women doctors are biased. Because they are women and potentially have personal experiences or beliefs related to reproduction, their medical opinions on abortion are inherently biased and therefore less trustworthy. The implication is that their gender somehow clouds their professional judgment. 2. Men are objective. Men, because they don't have the same direct biological experience of pregnancy, are assumed to be more objective and less emotionally invested in the issue. Therefore, their views on abortion are considered more rational and unbiased. 3. Fetal interests are paramount. The primary, and sometimes sole, focus is on the interest of the fetus. The woman's bodily autonomy, health, and life circumstances are often minimized or disregarded. Why this argument is problematic? Sexism. This argument relies on harmful stereotypes about women being overly emotional and irrational, while men are seen as paragons of logic and objectivity. This is a classic example of sexism. Ignoring male bias. The argument conveniently ignores the potential biases that men may have on this issue. Men can be influenced by cultural, religious, or political beliefs that shape their views on abortion. The assumption of male objectivity is often unwarranted. Oversimplification. The issue of abortion is complex, involving medical, ethical, legal, and personal considerations. Reducing it to a simple matter of objective versus biased viewpoints oversimplifies the debate and ignores the nuances involved. Dismissing medical expertise. Dismissing the expertise of women doctors is particularly troubling. These are highly trained medical professionals whose opinions are based on scientific evidence and clinical experience. To suggest that their gender automatically invalidates their expertise is disrespectful and undermines the medical profession. The disinterested observer fallacy. The idea that anyone can be truly disinterested or completely objective on such a deeply personal and ethically charged issue is itself questionable. Everyone brings their own values, beliefs, and experiences to the table. A more balanced approach, a more productive approach would involve respecting expertise, valuing the expertise of medical professionals, regardless of gender, in discussions about reproductive health, acknowledging biases, recognizing that everyone, regardless of gender, has potential biases. The key is to be aware of these biases and to engage in respectful dialogue, focusing on evidence, prioritizing scientific evidence, medical research, and ethical considerations in discussions about abortion, centering women's voices, ensuring that women's voices and lived experiences are central to the conversation about reproductive rights. In short, the argument you described is based on sexist stereotypes and ignores the complexities of the abortion debate. A more balanced and respectful approach is necessary to have a productive discussion about this important issue.
All right, but I just gotta say that last part. I thought what I was observing was a joke, and I thought the response was going to be, something like, "That's incorrect. You're simplifying a complex debate that carries many significant opinions and factors into it." And I got
That's a sadly accurate summary of a common, though not universal, line of argument used by some who oppose abortion rights.
I'm not gonna go into it anymore, but common, not universal. So not universal. I wonder if it's the majority of it. And if it's not universal, what is okay, if it's not universal, then there's different elements. So how would you break it up? What's the majority? What's the minority? What's the kind of like the middle independent ground? There are some people that what's an independent thing? Women. I think that they're trying to pitch it as the fetus concern. That's what they're trying to portray. So there's going to be the group within the group that says, no, we're not just saying it for rhetorical purposes. We really do believe in the fetus having rights. They really are going to hold to that line. And I guess one last thing. I'll just do this. I can't believe I'm doing this because this is already too long. Boom. So, can we find any significance with this quote and the argument that women doctors are inherently biased based on them being women? Oh, and the quote. Okay, let's see the quote. When two individuals interact, the sicker person determines a relationship. The more extreme and rigid the person, the greater his or her interpersonal pull. The stronger his or her ability to shape the relationship with others. The withdrawn catatonic, the irretrievable criminal, the compulsively flirtatious charmer can inevitably provoke the exact expected response from a more well-balanced other. We meet here a lowest common denominator process, a Gresham's law of interpersonal collisions. 6 people control the interpersonal interaction. The sicker or more maladaptively rigid, the more power to determine the nature of the relationship. Close quote. The politics of self-determination. Timothy Leary. What do you think it says? I want to know.
Leary's quote, while provocative, offers a lens through which one could analyze the argument about women doctors being inherently biased, but it's crucial to do so carefully and avoid reinforcing harmful stereotypes.
don't wanna
The
offend
quote
the
itself
fucking people
is about
saying it.
interpersonal dynamics and power, not specifically about gender. Here's how it might be applied, along with important caveats. Possible application. With caveats. The sicker party. One could argue, using Leary's framework, that those who insist women doctors are inherently biased are themselves exhibiting a kind of sickness. In this case, a rigid and inflexible adherence to sexist stereotypes. Their sickness is their inability to see women as objective medical professionals, instead filtering their perceptions through the lens of gender bias.
Don't offend
Control
them.
of the interaction. By rigidly adhering to this bias, they attempt to control the interpersonal interaction, effectively silencing or dismissing the expertise of women doctors. They are trying to pull the conversation in a direction that reinforces their preconceived notions, regardless of the actual evidence or medical facts. Gresham's law of interpersonal collisions. The idea of a lowest common denominator process suggests that the most extreme and rigid viewpoint can dominate the interaction, even if it's not the most rational or well supported. In this case, the rigid bias against women doctors could overshadow their actual qualifications and expertise. Why?
Could or does?
This application is problematic and needs careful handling. Risk of misinterpretation. Applying Leary's language of sickness to those holding sexist views could be easily misconstrued as name-calling or ad hominem attacks. It's crucial to focus on the argument being made, not on labeling individuals as sick. Reinforcing stigma. Using mental health terminology in this context could inadvertently reinforce stigma surrounding mental illness. Oversimplification. The issue of bias is complex. While some individuals may hold consciously sexist views, others may have unconscious biases that they are not even aware of. Leary's framework, if applied too simplistically, could oversimplify these nuances.
Sounds
Need
like
for
they're
nuance.
sick.
It's important to distinguish between legitimate critiques of bias, which are important, and the use of bias accusations as a way to silence or discredit opposing viewpoints. A more productive approach. Instead of directly applying Leary's language of sickness, it might be more productive to focus on the power dynamics at play. Those who dismiss women doctors' expertise are attempting to exert power in the interaction, defining the terms of the debate, and marginalizing opposing viewpoints. Analyzing the arguments they use, the evidence, or lack thereof, they present, and the impact of their words on the conversation is more likely to lead to a productive discussion. In conclusion, Leary's quote about interpersonal dynamics and power could offer some insights into the argument about women doctors' bias, but it needs to be applied with extreme caution. The risk of misinterpretation and the potential for harmful stigmatization are significant. A more productive approach would involve focusing on the power dynamics of the interaction and critically examining the arguments being made, rather than resorting to potentially inflammatory labels.